Recording has started.
Terrific. Very good. Hello, everyone. My name is Marcy Scott. I'm the facilitator for this process. And I just have a few introductory comments so we can all get ready and have the same direction. And then we'll jump right into today's agenda. So I'd like to say welcome to everyone to the second community meeting of the Ad Hoc Subcommittee of the Los Altos Hills County Fire District. This subcommittee is working to develop a recommended process to the full commission for creation of a successor strategic plan. The subcommittee values the input of the community and stakeholders in this planning process and appreciates the feedback provided. The goal of today's meeting is to review accomplishments and status of the current strategic plan, to review some draft survey language, and to provide direction with regard to a written recommendation to the full commission that will be heard on September 15th. So with that said, let me just touch real briefly on what's in the packet. We have an agenda and a staff report that also summarizes the previous meeting last Thursday. That was community meeting number 1. We have a chart called the draft work plan. And we have some pages from the current strategic plan that have to do with the goals and objectives. And we have some notes from this subcommittee from last November that were that was a review of the strategic plan. And then we have a draft of 2 different surveys. So that's what's in our packet, and that is on the website as well as accessible through a link. So I think what I'd like to do next is have everyone just introduce themselves. I thought that was really helpful last meeting. So I will turn over to the commissioners. Commissioner Price, I see you on my screen.
Okay. Hi, I'm Duffy Price, Commissioner with the Los Altos Hills County Fire District, appointed in 2004. So this is my last year on the Fire Commission after 16 years. Happy to help work out on the strategic plan, which we initiated in 2015. And now it's time for a successor plan to be developed. So thank you all for attending today.
Terrific. Let's see who pops up next. Commissioner Spreen.
Sure, I'm Roger Spreen. I've been a commissioner for, I guess, 4.5 years. I came on just after the last strategic plan was created and approved. So and have spent the last few years helping implement what was decided back then. So I'm pleased to be trying to figure out how to update it based on 5 years of tremendous progress.
Excellent. And Commissioner Carr.
Yes. Well, I got on this commission because I was at a certain meeting that Duffy was also attending, if I hope I have the story correct. And so I guess she knew there was a position available on the Fire Commission. So she suggested that I apply, and it worked. So here I am. I don't know how many years later.
Very good. Very good. Okay. And Jay Logan is here.
Yes, thank you. General Manager, Los Altos Hills County Fire District. Happy to be here to support the Ad Hoc Commission and the facilitator, Marcy and Sarah. So here to support and provide some comment when needed. Thank you.
Great. Sarah, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure, Sarah Henrik, Special Project Services Consultant with the district, helping to facilitate this process and hopefully get a great successor plan set up for the next 2 years for the commission. Happy to be here.
Thank you. And hello, Eduardo Arias. Would you like to say hello to the group, please, and introduce yourself?
Hi there, everybody. I'm Eduardo Arias. I'm co-chair of the ECC at Los Altos Hills and also very active in the CERT department. And I appreciate being here for all the support the strategic plan.
Excellent. Thank you for joining today. We're glad to have you. Okay, and there may be folks who were not able to make the meeting today, so this video link will be posted later on the website along with the meeting materials for anybody to access. Okay, great. I think next we'll move on to number 2 on the agenda, which is review accomplishments of the 2015 through 2020 strategic plan. And we have a nice summary memo that was prepared in November of 2019 that provides a review to date at that point. So I would turn it over to the commissioners if you'd like to go round robin, or if somebody would like to speak, maybe you could just tell us about this memo briefly, and we can talk through from the memo and provide a further update as to where we are today with regards to the current strategic plan.
Duffy, you're on mute.
Oh, yep.
Sorry, thank you.
There you go. Very good.
Yeah, good. I can start it off and then Roger can dovetail and
Excellent.
Janice can dovetail in. Okay, basically this report, we made periodic almost every commission meeting from 2015 forward. Whenever we had a report at the end, at the meeting, we would report what's the status was of the strategic plan, what we had implemented, what was yet to be done. And so based on the goals that we had, as you know, we had 5 major goals that we came up with, and each goal had subsidiary critical tasks that we were going to undertake to accomplish that goal. And so basically where we ended up, if you look at the sheet there, let me see if page 3, turn to page 3, you will see the status of what was completed for goal 1. And some of these were partially completed. I think these were major things that we felt were deficits that we needed for the organization. And the identification of roles, responsibilities, and what the job roles were. Job descriptions we really needed to have for all the various contract people that we had working for us in the commission. And actually, before I go forward, let me just say one of the big major things that came out of this entire plan was that we were able to hire a general manager, and that's Jay's position, which she came into, I believe, Jay, at the end of 2017, 2018, that basically we were able to hire a general manager. And so what we had left under goal 1 to do was to really publish a personnel manual. At this juncture, unless Jay can add something to it, I don't think we actually have a fully developed personnel manager with time frames for us to review it, etc. And that's something we would like to see happen. The example for that would be at the city council level, which Roger's more than familiar with. They have an outstanding personnel manual that provides all aspects of the role and responsibilities for the city council members, and we wanted to do the similar sort of thing for the district. What we did accomplish for the district was a orientation manual for new council members, which became very useful and very helpful. And so far, I think we've had 2 of our new commissioners take advantage of that. Janice, I believe you were one, and Mark, the current president, also, which included information about the district and what our apparatus were all about, how we were organized, what the contracting requirements are, and all of meeting with the Santa Clara County Fire Department was very important, so they understood how we operated and how we interfaced with the fire department and the nature of our contract with the fire department. So that was really a major thing that we wanted to accomplish. And then the second goal was, again, fell into the realm of administration. And we had policies and procedures of other similar districts that we reviewed and how we stacked up against them. And one of the things that came out of that was that we wanted to look at our process policies. That was yet to be sort of done, but we would hope that we'll get that accomplished soon. And I think we're moving in a lot of different directions right now. As you know, the district has just undergone an audit with the Santa Clara County, and that will likely influence a number of things that we'll be undertaking as we move forward. The other thing with goal number 2 was that we felt that an annual report needed to be published describing what was accomplished for the preceding year and post-year, so that we would be able to look at such things as what I've just sent you was a copy of the 2018, I think it was, report that is put out to the community and covers all kinds of things in terms of what our priorities were for the district and what we'd accomplished. And embedded in that, it gave what our budget was and how much funding and where it was dispensed for the year to perform our mission. So, and then in addition to that, it outlined what our CERT program was all about. And just so you know that the CERT program is approximately now about 10 or 12 years in endurance that it's been active. And at this juncture, in 2018, we had over 100 CERT members, 30 supervisory personnel. And so that was one of our major concerns, is that we wanted to keep that program going. So Roger, do you want to take over from this point?
Sure, and I have some random
Go
thoughts
ahead.
here. As I go through the goals, I'm looking at the goal page of the strategic plan, and I'm looking at, for example, goal 3 about sound financial and contract management plans and practices.
Right.
When I came on board, that's actually was presented to me as this is something that's a key thing for us. So I stress that as part of my individual orientation was showing that the commission was really pointed at what the strategic plan had highlighted. And in fact, in that time, in fact, again, I can't take any credit for this, the commission was already doing motions to redo the way we did contract updates every year to make sure they were raised earlier so there was time to evaluate, renegotiate as needed before contracts were reapplied every year. It's been a continual improvement since I've been on, where every contract we've dealt with has particularly had a subcommittee of commissioners be involved to create a rating system for each large RFP and follow the RFP and tracking throughout and really document the decision process. So I really think, goal 3 has been continually in the mind of the commission. And again, I can't take credit for that. I came into a situation where I saw the commission really having that front of mind.
Right.
I want to mention about goal 5, about maintaining awareness of current and future knowledge of technologies. The thing I'm most struck, and many things are listed here, and particularly in terms of outreach and certainly the CERT program as well, to sort of maintain a connection with the community. A lot has changed in 5 years in terms of what knowledge is had about fire and its effects on a semi-rural area like ours. I mean, all the tragic fires that have happened in the last 5 years, every time the fire chief or his representatives would come in and give reports, they were sharing what they were learning about what fire technologies are appropriate, what's not, what they've learned. So it's really, I hate to say, I was going to say trial by fire, that'd be a terrible pun. Really, I think I'm very fortunate to have been here at a period where a lot about what was thought of as common knowledge has changed. So I think this is going to continue to be a key thing for us about what are the appropriate technologies, both what's available and what's needed. For example, I think a key lesson that has been learned is prior to this 5 years, it was all about preventing the spread of fire on the ground and having fire breaks, keep the trees trimmed. And now everything we saw in the tragic fires is the air you're not safe by having a freeway between you and a fire. Roof,
Right.
Eaves, having sealed eaves, having flammables right next to the house, because you're going to have flaming embers through the air. I'm seeing residents considering how they're going to use their pools for water to protect themselves in a case where the fire has come to them, not directly as a path coming through their neighborhood, but just being struck randomly. So all of this affects the technology and what is the appropriate approach. I think that the key thing for the commission and the district in this time is really syncing itself up with the CWPP, with the county, for example, to make sure we are both initially in sync with what the county thinks are the right approaches to these kind of technologies, and having an iterative system every year to be tracking changes to that with our addendum to the CWPP. So I think that goal 5 really is another way of saying we're staying in sync with the county and the technologies they see as appropriate. I know I'm particularly, Chief Bowden was here a while back, part of the fact that new monitoring technologies are being put forth. And we're very eager to participate in that and find out how we can be a part of that, since we are kind of on the outskirts, and the more we can be a monitoring station for the rest of the county, we can participate there. So I think goal 5 really means that we can't sit on our heels, and I think we have not. And I think that will continue to be an important one.
Right.
I think that the one we probably spent most time on, at least as a subcommittee, has certainly been goal 1. And I think that in a way, when I came on board this ad hoc subcommittee, that was the one in terms of what our personnel architecture is. Recognize that's a key to having us be an effective organization. I'm so pleased, and I'm happy that goal 1 can be considered a huge success in us actually bringing on board employees like a general manager who can really make more use of us as a district. I think we were hampered by our lack of hands. And for us to actually do that organizationally, do it professionally, do it appropriately, do it responsibly, I think is a huge feather in the cap of the district to have made this kind of progress. So I want to highlight goal 1 as a big success for us, and not one we can stop on either.
Right.
As we've taken that step forward, now it shows going forward, we've got to figure out, we are clearly accomplishing more with a staff. How do we make it so we can make sure the staff has appropriate resources, office space, office equipment, office tools, but both virtual and physical tools to administer what's being done now. I think that's going to be a big focus for us for the next few years, and I think that will have to remain as a major goal. I want the people who come work for us to recognize that, or that we recognize how significant it is and how we have to continue making progress to maximize what we can do as a district. So those are my thoughts.
Right. I want to just go back 1 second, because this goal number 4 addresses all of those also, that goal number 4, which links into the more modern technology and being aware of current future knowledge of technologies that affect our mission. But in goal number 4, we spoke of the importance of implementing the county-wide fire protection plan, which was then just being introduced to us in 2017. And in fact, one of the most important things was that same plan and the idea for the building standards were not accepted by the town, but through the influence of the district to the town, we were able to get the town to adapt. And Roger, you could probably speak to that because you were on the council at that time, that basically they were able to expand and improve the building requirements, the standards, to comply with the state of California recommendation. So in terms of mitigating fire and implementing fire protection. So again, we have been on the front lines of the CWPP from its very beginning, although it's been around, I believe, since 2016. But basically, we basically realize that that's going to be upgraded and changed. And so we want to stay on top of that and have included that in some of our responses recently to issues that have been raised in the audit. So I think that's very important that we'll stay tuned into that. Any other things? Janice, is there anything else you would like to add to this, to the implementation of that?
Yeah, going back to the status accomplishments of the goals.
Mhm.
Are these published someplace? Our accomplishments?
Mhm.
And where would they be published if they are?
Oh, excuse me. Did I understand you? Repeat what you just said.
Oh, the title of just before the list of goals says the status accomplishment of the goals. Excuse me.
Uh-huh.
I want to know if they are published and where. Getting out my cough
Oh,
drop.
this is the report that you're looking at. This is what's published, in my understanding. Roger, do you want to amplify on that at all?
Janice, the particular thing we're looking at here was published as part of our monthly public meeting, and presented as part of an update on the strategic plan status. So this is part of the public record already. It hasn't been called out as its own document of accomplishments relative to the plan. I expect it will be folded in to some degree to the report of this process, but that document is part of the public record in our meeting minutes.
Okay, but it's not published anywhere else except in our minutes.
Or I should say, as opposed to meeting, it was part of the packet for the public meeting at the time that was created, I think in the end of last year, October of 2019.
Oh, but, one other thing I must say, just to let you know, that I just sent you a copy of the community report that we published in 2017, 2018. And embedded in that document is an outline of our strategic planning process and what we've been accomplishing. So it is sort of summarized what the goals were at that juncture also. So it was put forward on the town newsletter. I think we included portions of that in the town newsletter also. Does that help you, Janice, at all in answering your question?
Things that are published in the town newsletter, does that information get to the unincorporated section that is?
Oh, of course.
Yeah,
let me just address that. The town newsletter is a document that comes out 4 times a year, and the town sends it to the unincorporated area, and the district pays for that to go to the unincorporated area. So you get that newsletter 4 times a year, and almost in every issue, there will be something on the fire district. And sometimes there are even lead articles in that particular edition. So yeah, we work very closely with the town on publishing of the information.
Is that a printed copy that's sent out or email or
printed,
what?
Of course. It's a paper newsletter, printed.
Okay.
In 4-color design.
Okay.
Yeah. And if you never, well, I could bring copies of it. I often do to the commission meeting and hand it out.
I should go look through my files. And
yeah, look for your files. You'll see it. Okay.
Yeah. So maybe you already answered this one. Under 2E, the mailings.
Oh, the communication plan.
Is email also, it's still social media, Facebook and Twitter, and email, is that also used?
For publishing information?
Yes, and how do we get email addresses? If that's the case.
I don't understand your question.
Okay, under 2E, community communications.
Oh, okay. You're going back to goal number 2, communicate via website and town newsletter and separate mailings and brochures. We have a brochure and for the town and updated periodically, including social media, Facebook and Twitter. Roger, I'll have to leave that to you. I think we have a website, but I don't particularly reach out to Facebook necessarily.
Yeah, and our traffic on our website is pretty small as well, so there's not a huge, I think anyone who wants to get it can find it fairly straightforwardly on our website. Facebook is not a largely used mechanism for people finding information from us, so.
Yeah.
Well, I was thinking that email, we all read our email, but we don't necessarily take the extra step to go to a website to see the information.
That's true.
email is not, well, this is probably a separate discussion. I would take this offline. Email is requires more administration to keep update on that. People move and change emails all the time. Accounts go bad and we have to manage that. So it's not a really reliable way for a constant iterative way to push information out to people.
So how do we get people to go to the website?
Well, I think number one is, I think the town newsletter is quite effective since we put that in everyone's mailbox. So anytime we publish an article, and granted, people don't read all their mail either, but when you consider that there are 3,000 homes roughly in this area, we're actually touching every single home with that. We're certainly open to, and I think there's been quite an effort by both the town and the county over the past few years to try and get people hooked up electronically, such as with the various messaging systems, Nixle and text services. And to some degree, there's a confusing array of what people need to get hooked up to for information. And we won't be able to solve that ourselves. So I think that I'm certainly open to whatever our communication plan is, but I think we're exploiting what we can as best we can right now.
Yeah, we're working on it.
I would say there's been progress during this strategic plan. There certainly has been progress in communication modes. And it's probably one of those goals that we'll continue to work on as we go forward. There'll be new modes of communication. So it's in progress as well.
Right. Okay, very good.
All right.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity to go back over that. I hope Eduardo, are you still on, Eduardo? Is he still there?
Yes.
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Yes, I am.
You're kind of our little, go ahead, you're our test bunny.
What I was thinking is next door, I see some of the CERT mailings on next door, and that will maybe a good way of using social media.
May I just address that a second? Actually, I've talked to a number of people in the town, and it's not particularly that good. And you get a lot of overlap with other activities going on. So some people don't, I don't know, we need better analysis of how effective Nextdoor is. And maybe even the CERT people can share that with you, like you, Eduardo, and your team can figure that out and support.
Yeah, we certainly can do that, but we get emails and we also get both of them.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay.
Do you get the town newsletter? I hope you get the town newsletter.
Of course.
Good. Okay, good. Thanks.
Very good. Okay. Well, great. Well, this is a really helpful status check. And I think for certain, the proposal for the process will include a recognition of accomplishments, a look back to acknowledge all the progress that has been made. And then really the effort is looking at the path forward. What does that path look like? And there will be some overlap, but I think it is a really important to acknowledge the accomplishments that have been made to date. There are many. Okay, great. Well, let's continue moving along here to agenda item number 3. And this item has to do with surveying our community and stakeholders. So what we have before you as something to react to and respond to are 2 different surveys. Survey number 1 would be targeted toward specific stakeholders. Those are people who are involved with the district, and this would include people in CERT, the CERT supervisors, some of our partners in terms of water and fire safe council. And these would be folks who have some knowledge about district operations. And this would be requesting feedback in a whole variety of areas. And so what we've done is drafted some questions here. Some of them are fill in the blank with your own words. Some of them are checking boxes to indicate which services you use, how frequently you use them. And then some would be rating the district's services that are provided. And all of this will be helpful information to the commission as they develop their successor strategic plan. So that's survey number 1. Would the commissioners like to walk through these questions, or shall I just tee up if any commissioners would like to speak to this document? What is your preference?
I would like to see a printed version and maybe establish any comments that I have and then send it back to you.
Oh, yes.
Mm-hmm.
That would be fine. So the draft is in the packet. And if you'd like to, we can certainly work offline with the best way for you to note your comments. We would love to have your comments on this.
I agree with you. It is in the packet, Janice, so you could just look at the printed copy. It's called draft survey number. It just says draft survey question survey number 1. It's attachment 4 on some of the inside of the packet. But let me just say, I would like to, if you want to just kind of go through these questions, or we could submit them to you. For example, on question number 4, where it says, we broke it down, in fact, things we just talked about. It has website, newspaper, town crier. And I think you could add right there the town newsletter, which is called Our Town. Okay.
Oh, okay. Very
Our
good.
Town. Yeah, that should be added. So that's one little piece of input.
And that's the quarterly newsletter, definitely?
Yes, 4 times a year. And there's usually always an article on the district in that newspaper, in that little newsletter.
That's excellent. Very good.
I'm fine with it. I've read the questions. I'm fine with it. My only comment is for question 12, which is about the rating for the district's performance on each goal, having some sort of catch-all box afterwards. Say, you know, if you rated this anything below good, you know, neutral, anything below satisfied, please comment on why.
Yes, great.
Would that be in 12? Did you say 12, Roger?
Yes, related to question 12.
Okay, good.
Because if someone gives us a bad, you know, a low score, I'd love to know why.
Absolutely. Very good. Right. Okay. Good. Good. And again, this will be in a much nicer looking format and easier to use. So
I know it's good.
No, I think that anyone who offers us their time to go through this, I think this will give us good feedback.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes, and this will be through SurveyMonkey. So it will go to specific individuals on their email. They can fill it out on their computer. They can also move through and pause it and save it and come back and finish it if needed. And then at the end, they hit the submit button and it all is submitted electronically.
Right.
It's pretty user friendly. Very good. Okay. So that's survey number 1, and we're happy to accept any comments and feedback, and I will follow up with Commissioner Carr on specific comments.
Okay, great.
And the second item is survey number 2. This is a general survey for our community members. It's open to whoever would like to complete it. We would put it on our website. We would also do some outreach through some groups, and this can have a far and wide distribution. It's a little bit shorter. It's what we call a temperature check to see what does the general community know about us, what types of our services do they use, and we welcome any feedback they would like to provide in terms of their experience in working with the district, or if they want to know more about the district. Let's also make a note, Duffy, the same note in item number 3.
Perfect. That's perfect.
The town newsletter.
The only thing I've thought about and failed to come up with a solution for is we're always trying to figure out, do people really understand what the district is? What it's, and I don't know how to boil that down to a survey type question. Though if, I hate to lose an opportunity here for something that is going to go out to sort of, if you will, general public to sort of address that question. And I open that up as a brainstorming topic here for a second. I mean, I think if we ask most people, they wouldn't know what is the organization of the district, who does it report to, where does the money come from, no one understands any of that stuff.
Right.
I didn't before I even became a commissioner. So,
Yeah.
So again, I unfortunately, I'm not prevented. I don't have an answer for my own question. But I'm curious as to how we can, or if you think there's a way for us to get, let's say assuming we get some sort of feedback from community, any number of people, it'd be fun to find a way to say, do they really understand what the district even is? Is there a way to know that we're not the same as the Santa Clara County Fire Department, for example?
Right.
I think most people don't know the difference in those two things.
Right.
And maybe it's not important, so I'm not pushing for anything. But I wonder if, strategically, we are certainly, our goal is to, it's a key mission for us to remain local control of the decisions of fire and emergency services. And we want people to understand that there is a locally governed and administrated organization that is responsive to them, and that's us.
Yeah.
Sorry for that. That's a good point. And maybe you could somehow couch that in, do you know what portion of your property taxes are paid to fund the fire district, or something sort of like, maybe we need 2 or 3 questions, how is it funded?
If you think this, I don't want to detract from anything that takes us too far away from strategic planning. But it's an interesting question to know, how aware are people, how aware are people really understanding the significance of this?
Right.
I think that we're just asking questions on behalf of the fire department. It may not make sense to them. So again, it's an open question. How
about a series? Maybe it could be a series of questions. Query them. Do you know if it's funded by your funding, your taxpayer dollars, public funds, donations? I don't know. Something to make it relevant to when they're, whatever your thought is. Yeah, because it was interesting. We had last go around, somebody thought we were a subset of the fire department in our discussions. Sure. And so we got to, that would be a good, maybe this is the one to do it, the external membership here that we would have analyzes. So Marcy, can you come up with something?
Well, I have 2 suggestions. Number 1, in survey number 1, question number 3 asks, what do you think is the role of the LAHCFD? We'll obviously spell that out. Why not? We should have that question on both surveys, I think. Just asking them what they think the role is. Oh, thank you, Sarah, for pulling that up. And secondly, we could use this opportunity of the survey as an education tool. In other words, at the beginning of the survey or at the end, we could have a brief description of the role of the district. We could mention how it's funded. We could say what the role is. So we could do both of those things. We could ask them what they know, as well as provide a basic overview.
I think that's great. And you could actually say that 1.5% of your tax dollars goes to the funding of this district. I mean, you could give them what you're saying in terms of education would be great. Think about that. Maybe Jay can add to that too. That would be good.
And that this provides specific local services targeted to this community to help protect life and property. Kind of our mission statement, really.
Our mission and the medical. Remember that we're medical. First of all, we're primarily medical and then fire. So no, both, but of course we're fire, medical.
Yeah,
type.
ultimately, that's what we want people to understand about
Yeah,
this, even going into answering questions, is that there's a percentage of their taxes go to local governance of their fire, medical, emergency response services.
Right.
And, you know, the fact that they don't necessarily need to know the org chart between the
Right.
town, the district.
Right.
I'd love for them if they did, and the fire department, but that's what we ultimately, that's the one piece of messaging we want everyone to understand, because that will get more people asking tough questions of us, because we want them we want them being aggressively asking what we're doing for them, and understanding how we need to be responsive to them. I think most people don't know that.
Right.
So, and maybe it's part of the strategic, and maybe I'm just getting ahead of ourselves by saying that that's a personal bias of what one of our goals needs to be, is continued attempts to educate residents on this topic, because, you know, people still don't know, and I understand why they don't know, but it's
yeah, I agree with you, Roger. That's a thread that is going to run through for a long time looking forward, but we need to emphasize it during this program we're engaged in right now in the strategic plan. That's great. It's carryover, so that's good.
Okay.
Good. Very good, Marcy.
We'll work on drafting that, and I'm sure Jay has some good thoughts too on how to succinctly capture some of those. So we'll work on that in our revised draft. Okay, very good. This is all
good.
Helpful input. I guess I'll just ask if anybody has any further comments on the survey process or the survey drafts. Okay, and hearing none, the next item actually is a request if there are any community comments. I think we added a community member to our call today. I see we have Dave Stewart has joined, so open it up if either of our members of the community would like to comment and provide any input with regard to the strategic plan successor development process.
Nope, I'm good. I'm just listening in at this point.
Oh, very good. Thank you. Good to have you.
Well, Dave, we certainly value your thoughts, so we hope you'll chime in if anything comes to mind.
I will. Thank you, Roger.
And Eduardo as well. So we're counting on both of you to represent all the public.
Yeah.
Thank you, Roger.
That's good.
That's a pretty weak sample size, Roger.
Let me say this to you. Of all the community districts that we have, this is one that is valued, or it should be valued by the community at large, because it does a lot of things, especially with your general manager coming in and helping the process as it goes along. I think it is very valuable. So I agree with Roger that it's a good idea to talk about how this fire district is organized and how it's funded properly.
Good. Thank you.
Okay. Terrific. All right. Moving right along then, item number 5 is the discussion point for the commissioners to provide specific feedback. And what I would recommend for us is if we look at this draft work plan document, which is the chart in the packet, and if we walk just briefly through the proposed process, see if there's any input, comments, and then I'd like for us to talk about what components you would like to make sure are in the proposal to the full commission that will go in the agenda packet for September 15th. So on this document, we've had one community meeting last week. Today is our second community meeting. We've gathered some input. We've talked about process. And then what will happen after today's meeting is preparation of a document that will go to the commission to recommend 2 public meetings of the commission specifically for strategic planning. And to inform those 2 meetings, we'll conduct a survey process, which we just described. We'll have 2 concurrent surveys, one to the general community, one to stakeholders. That survey information will be summarized and will inform strategic plan meeting number 1. We have a tentative date of October 1st. That's certainly subject to change, but we thought that's in between the regular commission meetings.
Mhm.
And vision that the full commission would reaffirm or revise the existing mission and vision statements that are in the current strategic plan, would review the goals. We'll summarize what we've talked about here about what we've identified as accomplishments, and highlight goals that have been identified so far for going forward. Conduct a SWOT analysis, and that is looking at successes, weaknesses, opportunities, and challenges. Pulling all that information together. And then the second special strategic plan meeting would be at the end of the month. And we envision on that meeting to really work on formulating goals and objectives for the new strategic plan. We would propose using some breakout rooms on this Zoom platform to allow some small group discussions on specific goals, and then come back together, put together a draft final report with goals that can be reviewed by the commission going forward. And then adoption of the new the new strategic plan at the regular meeting on November 17th.
Mm-hmm.
We would like to have the plan in place by the end of this year, before the current one expires. And so that's the basic vision of a process that would work. While we wish we could have in-person meetings, unfortunately, we'll have to use the other tools at our disposal, which will be the online survey and the breakout rooms for community discussion. And then at the bottom of this page, we have a summary chart just to keep in mind what the outcomes of this successor strategic planning process are, which are really to frame what the future challenges are, some positive solutions for meeting those challenges, to engage our stakeholders and communities in the visioning and goal setting process, to identify achievable goals. As we heard at community meeting number 1, the general manager and the staff all rely on this document frequently to guide their thinking and their decision making, and to move the district toward all of those goals. And finally, really, this document is critical for helping the district navigate through these uncertain times and this time of rapid change. And Commissioner Spring described, even in the technical arena, the fire science that's continuing to change as well.
Marcy, this is fine to me. My only comment is that I'm wondering, and it depends on what else it ends up agendized for the committee as a whole. I wonder if we can use the October 20th regular commission meeting to actually bring forward some of the tasks that are right now scheduled for the meeting 2.
Yes.
The reason I mention that is that, and again, if the agenda for October ends up being massive, then obviously this works fine. But to get the commissioners themselves in the headspace of thinking about this thing, they already will have had the meeting 1 3 weeks prior. That meeting, October 20th, might be a good time to actually do some of the refinement or the goal, the major goal refinement in that meeting. And that would give a little more, if that were accomplishable, that would give a little more safety to the overall schedule.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I think that makes a lot of sense.
It's up to President Warren to say, hey, I've already got 3 hours of stuff to do, so we don't have time for that. But if we can block out a very specific amount of time, 20 minutes sort of thing to say, because as it is now, it looks like it's just a presentation of what everyone else will already have participated in. It's nice to use that to say, okay, help us refine this so that we can have a first draft or a first final draft or something. So I'd just like to exploit that meeting.
I think that's a great idea, and it continues the momentum.
Yes.
Can I just ask a question? Do you think it would be useful to have any kind of announcement in the local town crier that the district is working on a strategic plan, is engaging a new this year's, we're winding up the last one, we're building on a Successor program. Do you think we should have any public relations going out about us doing this at this juncture that may stimulate some of our own feedback from our people within the district? Just asking the question. Roger, any thoughts? Janice?
Couldn't hurt, I guess.
In terms of announcing that the district is now engaged in, other than the fact that the audit is there weighing heavily over our heads until the end of August, but we could say, this would preempt going, we could get something in another week if we just write up a little something about what's going on right now, that the district is busy working on the strategic plan.
I think certainly
Jay,
we should.
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't mean to cut Jay off if I did. Certainly, I would suggest using the town crier to announce the October 1st and October 27th meetings if we want members of the public involved.
And that satisfies, the idea of transparency of what the district is doing, that we are engaged in this process of planning, for the next 5 years or the next 3 years or the next 2 years, whatever we end up doing. By the way, did we decide this is a 3-year plan or a 2-year plan? 2, okay.
Right. And as well, we could also use Nextdoor. Now, I don't know if we as a district have Nextdoor access. The town does, and because they can submit a message that goes to all the neighborhoods at once. It would be nice to announce those 2 meetings there as well, I would say.
Yeah.
So I'm
some
all
sort of that would be good to get more public input.
Yep.
Possible. Okay, I don't hear, does anybody else want to comment on that? Marcy, have you done that before with a strategic plan at all, make public aware of that this is going on?
Oh yes, yeah, I think that's a fine idea. I'm wondering if we would like to target to do that immediately following the September 15th regular commission meeting, when the full commission adopts the work plan.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yes.
We'll have the confirmed dates at that time. But that gives several weeks notice. People can certainly calendar that. I think that's fine. And we can also, some people may just wish to follow along on the website with materials and updates as they are posted, and that's great.
Right. Yeah, that would be useful.
Good.
Well, I would support that if everybody agrees to that. That sounds good.
Okay.
Can
so
I ask a point of clarification?
Sure.
Okay. On the work plan, October 20th date, that's the commission regular meeting.
Yeah.
Then it says in red, 6 to 7 p.m. discuss strategic plan. Is that the intention then, Roger, of that dialogue with the commission? Is that at 6 to 7? Do you think that will work?
No, I was not thinking that. I was thinking as part of the regular meeting,
on the regular agenda,
using whatever, reasonable period of time to actually encourage constructive refinement during the meeting. So I'm not sure what the 6 to 7 p.m. notation there refers to.
I think that was in the event that we wanted to have a special meeting time before the regular meeting, just to have a longer discussion with the commission. If
I'm fine with that.
Yeah, that sounds good.
In fact, maybe that's a better way to do it. And really, that would certainly allow us to pull some of the goals forward from the October 27th meeting and say, we're going to spend that hour with a goal of having a, whatever Marcy thinks are an appropriate step.
Yeah.
But, you know, a first draft or first final draft of goals and objectives. And really, and that allows I think that gives us more of a buffer of time if we can get that done then instead of the second meeting.
So what I'll do is I'll have Corey query the commissioners to see if they would be able to schedule the 6 to 7 on their calendar. And then if that comes back positive that everyone can do that, that may be a nice way of starting off with a special discussion, 6 to 7. If not, then we can retreat back to maybe 20 minutes during the regular meeting.
Agreed. I think it's a good idea.
Okay.
Dave, what do you think about putting the dates of October 1 and October 27 in that same query and say, these are the timeframes we're proposing? I think the sooner we can have people set things aside on their calendar, the better.
Yes.
Okay, that would be helpful. I think that's a great idea.
Because we're really trying to stage it, not to have it all culminate at the very end to where we're rushing or we don't have the time to think it through. And so this way we're trying to stage it, pace it.
Yeah.
The evolution and the determination of what the strategic plan is going to be over these just few months that we have left.
Yes. Right. I think that's great. That's great. So we'd have 2 special meetings and then a chunk set aside on the regular meeting of the 20th. So that's a lot of meetings in October, but I think it will be, if we stay focused, it can be very productive.
And, you know, it may be that we don't have a high amount of attendance at those meetings. What I think is really important is that the 3 commissioners that are now speaking as the ad hoc subcommittee have the opportunity to talk and listen to each other. And you're the ones that are going to be guiding this process. So if the 3 of you are committed to it and this works on your schedules, I think that's the major feature we're trying to provide. And then hopefully the other 4 commissioners can join in and the public can join in. So we're kind of staging it to get you as an ad hoc committee the information you need to make these recommendations back to the full commission.
Okay. Jay, did you have any other comments on the work plan? Well,
No, I think the work plan's working for us. If it's if it's not too ambitious, if the ad hoc committee, again, does this work for you? Is this something that seems like when you come to the end, you'll have what you need as a strategic plan?
Yeah. I just was checking my vacation dates here, and it looks like, if you can believe it, it's going to work out well. We leave on the 18th and we get back on the 25th of September. Oh. So that's kind of blocks us out. That works. September 16th, we're here. That sounds good. Okay, we're good.
Good.
This works for me. I just want to make sure we make positive steps at each one to make sure that we get our work done in a linear fashion and not leave it all to the end.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right. So this looks good to me so far. Yeah.
Okay. Very good.
Great. Yeah, I think it's a little bit front loaded actually, but that's fine. If we aren't at the first proposed meeting, special meeting on the 1st, it has a number of steps, but I think we have a plan and jump right in. And if we find we need a little extra time, we've found some time on the 20th now, and then we continue on to the 27th. And my goal would be to get a final report formatted, and as we move forward in the process, we can start populating that report. So we have a draft that the commission can continue to review as we go. So by the end, you're already familiar with the document, and then it's a final review and any last edits and approval. So, okay, great. Well, that's all we had on the agenda. Would we like to have any final comments at this point? Any other questions or thoughts or concerns? I think we've had a lot of good discussion today.
I have some thoughts. I've just been trying to process a lot of the information that's been suggested today. And what I'd like to do is go back to the November 19th assessment of the plan. And what struck me when I was going through it is the goals from the last strategic plan, I think, were more in the infrastructure or the administrative areas. If I look at goal 1, goal 2, and goal 3, that's the way you operate organizations. So out of 5, 3 are already more infrastructure about the district versus programmatic. Goal 4 is the only goal that is really focused at the program of fire prevention and fire protection. Now, it couples with goal 5, which gets into the technology. So when Roger was going through the discussion of that document, I liked, Roger, what you said about goal 5. You made it more programmatic. And I'm thinking, okay, that really works. Now there's more of a balance between goal 5 and goal 4. Now out of 5, 2 of them are programmatic. The other 3 are more how you operate a district. I'm hoping that we really put the focus on goal 4 and 5, because that's what delivers the service to the community. That's what is fire protection and prevention. That's the critical piece when you use fire science and you use what's happened in the state of California over the last 2 years and you see the devastation. This is the way in goal 4 and 5 of the current plan that we can address what are we going to do to make a difference and a significance in our community. How it gets done financially, what the administration looks like, what the personnel looks like, are all the parts that support that. That takes me back to that fundamental chart that was initiated the first meeting that we had, Marcy and Sarah. I don't know if you have that chart.
This one?
Yep, which is that one, which across the top, that's what I would like to see built out. All of the different operational programmatic areas that deliver protection and safety to the community. And then underneath it is your administration, your finance, and your personnel. Those are what supports that. So I think if you took this November 19th document and then you say, here's where we are today, it would be the chart, Marcy, that you just held up as to how the strategic plan has evolved.
Yeah.
And then building the new strategic plan, it's building that chart out further because there are some gaps in it. I mean, CERT's not even on there. Or maybe it is, but it needs to be built out.
Yeah, it's on there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's on there. Okay. But it needs to be, you know, much more robust because that's part of the protection and the prevention.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my overarching thinking. There we go. There we go.
Nice, Sarah.
And hydrants, oh my gosh. I mean, Duffy, I left hydrants blank because of the management audit, what we're going through right now.
Right.
We have got to talk about hydrants and what we're going to do and how we're going to deliver when new water mains go in, the fire protection to the community. And as the community develops and residents refurbish their residents, are those hydrants in the right places? So this top area is the part that is very compelling and very interesting to me, as I think we look at how we fulfill the mission to the community for safety. And I'm looking at fire, but I'm also thinking earthquake and other kinds of disasters that can occur.
Yeah, prevention.
So that's kind of how I'm trying to assimilate what's been talked about today and where we're going with the plan. And I'd love to hear any comments from Roger, Janice, Duffy on that.
Yeah. Aren't we already, I mean, we're already engaged in all of these things that you have there. So it's like that will just think about it. I mean, we really, with Denise's efforts and showed it all this engagement with, and we actually talked about that in 4, working with Fire Safe Council in the report that we had on November 19th. So we are engaged. So that's great. This
Yeah,
and
and
this could just
look
be
over to the
carryover.
corner where it has the refuge centers, the refuge staging here. We have so much to do there. Denise spent a lot of time talking with me yesterday about the evacuation roads and getting those into more definition as to what the district's responsibility is around that. Refuge and escape and evacuation. It's not as robust and as filled out on this chart as I would like to see that, nor do I think we've had the conversation about it yet.
Right. No, I think it's great. Good to go for it.
Yeah. Roger, any comments, thoughts about how to pull this together?
First of all, I think that I agree with you that the goals we come up with, and when I try to abstract what we do, I divide it into sort of, there's external services to our customers, and there's our internal administrative requirements. I totally agree with you that we want our goals to be leading off with our external view.
Yes.
Because we want our residents looking at this and not reading about how we're trying to be financially responsible. Of course we are. We want them to see that, what our focus is for them as members of the community. So I'd love to see goals this time, for a 2-year goal period, really reflect something a resident would understand how it goes with them. And I think actually the right way, I agree with you also, that the right way to go about that is to look at a chart like this and kind of say, from each of these point of views, what are their goals? I would say this chart is not really complete because it doesn't really include more of a commissioner's job in terms of, how we manage the fire and emergency services and so forth. So in a way, it's even wider. It's a wider chart than this even. But that's a long-winded way of me saying I agree with you that I want us to be external service focused in terms of our goals. And this gives us quite a few key points to work from at looking at goals. In fact, I would say that the 3 of us, or actually all of us, should start with some brainstorming of goals, potential goals. I don't think we want to wait till those public meetings to start thinking about it. I think we could start putting some wording around potential goals that just to have an idea of what makes sense as a goal.
Yeah, if I were going to reframe this chart, Roger, what I would do is take because the piece of paper won't be long enough. So I would want to have 1 page, maybe just on vegetation mitigation and hydrants, perhaps. Another page on just CERT and ARC and all that we can do with the community, the neighborhood networks, all of that outreach. And then another page on maybe the technology. And so this chart goes from 1 page to maybe 3 pages. And then down below, which is what I call the bureaucracy that, quite frankly, I don't think citizens want to hear about, but residents don't want to hear about, what it takes just to support those. And maybe in doing this and framing it up in a visual, maybe that will start to help us almost do our SWOT analysis as your ad hoc committee and start looking at what comes out in the forefront for goals, major goals, and then what kind of subsides over to the side as not the higher priorities.
Right. In a way, it's when you look at what we're doing, that tells you what our goals are. Those are the choices we're making as to what we're doing. Now, maybe they're wrong, but at least we'll see what we are, when we walk the walk, this is what we're doing and prioritizing. And I think a lot. So I would agree with that as an approach. I think it's a great.
The other thing too that I think is so important is this chart is one of the themes of the management audit report response that the district provided. This is in our introduction section.
Absolutely.
And if I were to sit down with the county, let's say we start this transition now with our communication with the county, this would be the first piece of paper that I would use as how to frame the dialogue with the county.
Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah.
And the hydrants are absolutely essential, and we've got to move on that. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So let's keep that. I like the idea, Jay, of putting it into 3 separate phases here.
Yes.
Very good.
Yes, yes. But we want to be congruent We want to have the same conversation with the county that we have with our residents, that we have with ourselves as commissioners and staff. And I think that this chart, if we can really make it current and now and future looking, and that's, it says it's future looking, then we can have a common theme of dialogue. And to me, that's what a strategic plan is, Marcy, is a common theme of dialogue, a path forward, positive solutions, working collegially, making sense with our partners. I think this is a nice way to start shaping that path. So
I totally agree. The goal of the plan is to have a unified vocabulary we're using for what we're doing.
Yes.
Right.
Right now, we don't have that.
Yes.
Right. This is the successor. This is great. Do it. I like it.
Okay.
So
We've kind of been talking more about the tactics, Roger, you know, in our conversation about the first community meeting, the second, more tactical. This, I think, takes us into really the strategic forward-looking prongs of having unified vocabulary. That's such an important strategic goal. As a pictorial of what our value to the community is. It's different than the fire department or the county. It's local control and what this brings into local control.
Right.
Agreed.
Okay, that's my speech. I've been
And
assimilating. I've been assimilating.
It's 21st century, right? That's where we want to go.
That's
So
right.
that's good. Keep it
So
going.
what I like is having a visual.
Yeah.
I think people really respond to some visual guide. It's hard for us to look at a lot of words. We have all these papers, they have a lot of words. So I think this is great. And I'm wondering, Jay, if we might be able to develop a draft document. You mentioned neighborhood outreach, which includes this communication piece we've already talked about. You mentioned technology, vegetation, and bureaucracy.
Yes.
Bureaucracy, will come up with a better term that sometimes has negative connotations, but really it's administration. And what I heard is administration is important. It has to be accountable. It has to be transparent, but it's not the piece that everybody wants to talk about. It's the piece that must be there. It must be well performed. And so that's fine. That is a part of this, but really what I heard is the exciting dialogue is around these programmatic areas. And so that's 4 components. Maybe we start to work on a draft of something that we could send to the subcommittee to respond to.
I'd like to do that. Let us, Marcy, maybe we can just take a shot at flushing out, making more robust and updating this chart.
Yeah.
And sending that
Terrific.
out.
Do it. Good.
Okay.
That's great.
Great. Very good. Okay. Any last comments before we conclude here?
Thank you.
Well, it's been a great discussion today. Thank you.
Thanks, Eduardo. Thanks for coming in.
I want to thank Eduardo and Dave for chiming in, and we'll be in touch with you. We need your input on these.
Yeah, Dave. Yeah, stay tuned.
Yep, stay tuned.
Happy to contribute, Jay. Thanks.
Yeah, me too.
Good. Thank you, Dave. Thanks so much.
Sure.
By the way, Victoria gave a great class last night on road management, and we're going to pick up our jackets, our vests. Dave, thank you.
Excellent. Excellent.
Pick them up
Excellent,
tomorrow. That's great.
Yep.
Good job.
Tomorrow, 5 o'clock is the starting time.
Yep.
Yeah. Good. Thank you.
All right.
Check it out.
Thank you
Thanks,
so
Marcy.
much, everyone.
Okay,
Bye.
thank you.
Okay.
How do I get out of here?
There should be a red button.